All right, we're live. Welcome everyone to TableTalk, where we talk all things tabletop. I'm your host, the Bad Luck Gamer, with my co-host Glue Boy.
Hello, hello.
And today we're kind of in the calm before the storm. Starting next month, we are going to be getting a deluge of tons of Pathfinder, Starfinder, even D&D content. Crazy with the release of Player Core 2, the Tiansha character guide, D&D 2024, Starfinder 2E playtest, Wrath of the Immortals, and Divine Mysteries. Whew, it's a lot.
God, when's the release date for the D&D not
September.
new edition? Of September, okay.
2024 September.
Gotcha. I didn't know if it was suddenly earlier. Didn't know if to batten down the hatches, the storm is coming.
No, but it's literally right after the two busiest months, so we'll see. But as always, we get to the main core of the discussion somewhere in the 25-minute range. So if you're watching this post the fact or whatever, we start around there. Also, if anyone can give me an audio check, I think my audio is a little low, which I don't honestly know how I can make it any higher.
It seems fine, but like if it was like a hair a little louder, it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, the hard part about that is it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
This mic in particular.
New mic seems wild.
Input. Like go like that. We'll see how that goes. That seems a little bit better. You do sound weirdly quiet. Yeah, this new mic has been wild, and I don't know. There's some good qualities, like the fact that this mic does have an audio gate function just built into it. Kind of nice. And I don't have to do it on my videos. And you guys don't have to listen to me breathe, which is kind of better. But sometimes it just gets a little wonky.
Yeah, just quiet. And at least I'm thankful that the first time you started using it, the issue of you, like, the gain suddenly increasing and just being deaf for a little bit, that issue seemed to be gone. It hasn't happened since it first happened.
Yeah. So, hopefully, anyway, things can get figured out. What I used to do with my old mic, which seems to be not the same way now, is I could turn up the output volume, but I could reduce the gain on the mic itself differently, so that the mic itself isn't picking up more noise, but what noise it was picking up was louder.
Yeah, the only bit that could do that is if the mic company itself has a program, because I know my mic, I have a Blue Yeti, has that. Because I have a program I can open right now that would do the same thing, where I can increase the gain or I can increase the output volume.
So we'll see how that goes. I've been doing some micro adjustments. I seem to be falling better in the range now. And you can't really seem to hear me breathe that loud anyway, maybe a little bit. So.
Yeah.
But anyway. So as always, a little bit of small talk. So Alex, what's been going on with you?
I'm finally back.
Yeah, I saw your video.
Finally returned. I decided to post it early because I finished it. No, I was gonna release it Thursday, like today, and I was like, nah, it's all done. It's been way too long because like I was horribly sick and then working on this thing for a while. I posted my video on Trench Crusade, which is a fantastic new war game I've been really into for a while. And man, it popped off a bit. I'm very happy about it. Deservedly. I think it's a fun video, and it's a fun setting. And apparently, if you Google Trench Crusade, I kept seeing my video pop up in the actual search results for Trench Crusade. So that might be one of the reasons. Because I
Yeah.
don't know if many other people have made like what I've done. If anyone's done the thing of like, all right, let's make a lore video on what this game is. So we'll see. This might be a really good piece of just ever growing content. But either way, it's a dope game. I love it so much, and I'm excited it's doing well, and I'm excited to be making videos again.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, oh man, hopefully Alex gets making videos again soon. He's gonna be in trouble otherwise. Some of the art in that game though, like range from like that's badass to I'm gonna vomit in my mouth.
No, it's like the art is by like this one specific guy. It's Mike Francina, who is responsible for a lot of stuff from like Blizzard, like I think World of Warcraft specifically. And oh my god, it goes like all over. He has such a disgusting art style, and I mean that in the absolute best way possible. It's so fun, every single piece, and it's so nice to see like the plague and pestilence aesthetic really turned up. It's so nasty. And then my boys, the Iron Sultanate, they look so sick. I love them so much. But yeah, it's a really fun video. So if anyone is looking for at least fun, like set of lore or even a war game that's gonna come out, the Kickstarter is gonna drop this year. Go check out my video. Go look up Glue Boy. You'll find it. And keep an eye on Trench Crusade. Go support them when it drops.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking about it for sure. And also, hi Gabriel, how you doing? But yeah, it's funny too when you're talking about like potential growing content in anything. That's kind of how I feel about Starfinder. Cause like, I'm gonna go right now on here to YouTube. I'm gonna type in Starfinder.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I'm gonna see like what pops up. Ah, apparently Davy Chappie talked about it at some point.
I don't know this channel, but from the thumbnail, they actually look like a fun YouTube channel.
But yeah, no one really is making any consistent content on Starfinder.
Yeah, it's some Paizo stuff. Oh yeah, Taking 20.
Taking 20 did a few videos on it. The Maple Table, apparently, whatever channel that is, probably Canadian.
Probably some good old Starfinder lore, which from what people even in our own server have said, Starfinder lore is very good. I mean, if it's anything like Galarian's lore, Galarian has some very strong lore, so if it's the same quality, but in space.
So yeah, right now there's really no channels really covering a lot of Starfinder content. So if I cover a lot of Starfinder content in our already growing channel, I feel like we'll very quickly jump to the top of the Starfinder leaderboard unless some other bigger channel starts doing it regularly. We'll have to see. But I'm kind of excited for that because I do feel like Starfinder is going to be big, which is the topic of the subject today, but we're going to get to that in a little bit. Other than that, I've just been trying to catch up with the rest of the How of the Wild stuff. I've taken things a little slow, so not to burn myself out and to prepare, because as soon as Player Core 2 drops, like, Player Core 2 is going to be a whole nother animal. It's not going to just be, hey, I'm going to read all the feats and abilities of this or whatever. When I do my Player Core, like, remastered videos, it's like I look at the old content and the new content, and I tell you all the differences, which means that I have to technically research twice as much content for the remaster stuff.
Yeah, going back and forth, comparing all of it.
It's a lot of effort, but it worked out really, really well for Player Core 1, and I feel like Player Core 2 is going to be even bigger. So I can't wait for it, but at the same time, like I definitely can wait a little bit longer, like take a little bit of a break before the stuff really gets churning out. And then we're running straight into Gen Con, and there's like there's a lot of games that also get like revealed and announced during Gen Con. Like one of my favorite games currently, Fabula Ultima, was I heard about it after Gen Con. And there's 2 books. I'm gonna get 2 books, like I think today or some point, where I'm gonna get the 2 new books, the 2 new atlases for Fabula Ultima,
Hell yeah.
because it adds like 8 or 7 new classes or something like that. Which
Is there
Fabula
anything?
Ultima is crazy.
Is there any? That is a lot of like useful stuff because of how much class dipping is required. Is there anything like really hype? Is there anything really cool?
The Techno Atlas is really cool because it introduces a lot of like sci-fi stuff into it. One of the classes from the Techno Atlas is the Mutant, which is kind of cool. The art for the Mutant's really, really good. There's also a Pilot class, which I'm very curious if that means it's a class that like gets certain, like, for instance, like spaceship abilities or maybe vehicle abilities in general. I don't know. So I'll definitely have to take a look. But I've been wanting to kind of dip into Fabula Ultima as a rules light-ish game for a while now. Especially because with all the harder core games out there, it'd be kind of nice to have the little light dip. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I just see the it dropped. Techno Fantasy has Pilot, Mutant, and Esper classes.
Oh yeah, and Esper's also really cool.
Esper.
Yeah, Esper.
They also have a demon summoning class, right? That's the thing they got.
I mean, they
That
have
sounds pretty cool.
The summoner one, yeah.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, there's just a lot of classes where I look at and I'm just like, damn, making this hard, huh? Because there's also the causality mage.
Well, and that's the great thing about it. You can get like up to 5 max ranked classes. So
I know, and
you
I can
have
play all of
to,
them.
honestly. So
Yeah, it's just like what's the fun mix? Because I remember it was the when we did our one shot, I played that one card class. It was fun, but I was like, if I do this again, I want to engage with the actual mechanics of the game, not this other mechanic that's created for the actual game, which is really fun. It's super fun though, but I wanted to go a lot harder into the causality magic because it was super cool.
Yeah, it's honestly, there's a lot to be pretty hyped about for Fabula Ultima, and I feel like I feel like what I really want to do is I kind of want to do like a Final Fantasy-esque story where you have modern / like slightly futuristic modern society isolated from the rest of the world, and you're all a bunch of people who want to go out into the wild areas and like explore ancient ruins and find what secrets the world has in the places that are too dangerous for people to go normally.
Hell yeah. I love me some good explorer style like shenanigans.
Well, and there's a lot of mechanics in the game that apply to exploration actions and like events. So like I also like the idea of like the MMO style version of the game, but I feel like you have to be a very specific type of person to like that one. So
as a person who does not like MMOs, that appeals to me less.
Yeah.
Because like I am more interested in being a person who lives in a fantasy world, not an abstract I am a person playing a video game of a fantasy world. Because like I don't know. I can't get hooked in as much of like I'm playing a video game, but instead of like because all my character creation process is always like I am making a person who could believably live in the world that they are in. And it's harder to do that when I take the step of like I'm playing a guy who's playing a game while playing it. It's like it's weird.
I mean, for me, it's just the excitement of exploring like a really cool MMO game, you know, like VR MMO game. But whatever. Like I
Yeah.
said, the Final Fantasy version I think is just a lot more appealing to more people. And
Oh yeah, and also just like you have cool stuff that you could slot in there with like that general idea. So many cool, secret, creepy things to discover and horrifying monsters to throw. And like
yeah,
it's a cool game too because it's a simple like system. Like it's not complicated, but I also don't feel like it's a Powered by the Apocalypse simple, where it's like it is a game where you sit at a table and roll dice maybe like 5 times the session. It is there's actual stuff there and mechanics to interact with,
it's a
but it is
chunkier
not
rules light
hard.
style game. Yeah.
It's there's rules to play the game, but you could believably learn how your character like completely works in like 2 sessions if you were
Right.
newer to tabletop. Like you could get everything really working. If you're really experienced like we were, I think a lot of us got really quick moving in like 2 combat encounters. We were getting it really quick.
Hello, Nick Mortis. Thank you. I welcome welcome from the USA, I suppose. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Starfinder 2 as well. We'll be talking a lot about it today. But yeah, I don't know. So I'm gonna dig into these, and maybe we'll do something with the Saturday game, depending on how that goes, because our Monster of the Week game is ending soon. And as much as I've liked Monster of the Week, I think I've played my fair share of it enough now to like be pretty okay with it. I could play it again maybe after like a year or so, but
Yeah, I
I've
also
kind of
know
reached
that.
the limit of what I could enjoy, I think.
Yeah, I also know that like whatever game we move on to, because I know we're probably gonna like all chat about what the next step that we do is. I know that the stuff that's already being like considered and like, all right, let's see what else we might want to play. None of them are Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
So, because like everybody is of the same opinion of like, this is fun. Let's try a different game though.
Yeah, it's a fun game. It's really
It's very
good.
fun.
It's just
You need a good GM to sell it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I think it's carried very heavily by the game, the narrative, more than the actual game, which a lot of rules like games are.
Yeah, because it's a narrative game at the end of the day. You're not there for the mechanics of a rules light because there's not much mechanical depth in a I roll 2d6 and the game says yes. Like that there's not much there. So like it's just we have a group that's super narrative heavy and can carry a rules light. And then we all like games that are very crunchy and at least have
Yeah.
some like fun mechanical depth to it. So I know those are some of the stuff we're looking at.
I just need some meat on the bones of the system. I want to make builds of some kind, even if they're like not super in depth. I just give me something that lets me play differently every time I choose to play.
Yeah.
That's what I look for. That's why Lancer is a lot of fun, because Lancer,
Exactly.
you can play the same role many different ways. In fact, I just released in tandem with today's Table Talk the Kobold frame, and the Kobold's really cool in a lot of ways.
Kobold's super interesting is a frame that I kind of underestimate, and then I had to change my mind when we saw the build that mixed it with the Atlas, where using the one cannon you get to knock
The
people
side cannon.
prone. Yeah,
Yeah.
where I was like, oh, that's so clever. That was
Yeah.
a moment of like awakening of like, oh, that's the use of the kobold. I see the matrix now.
Right, yeah, it's really good. There's a lot of really cool stuff with the Kobold. As far as like many of the frames I've looked into so far, it's been one of the best designed ones, I think, so far.
It's so well done.
But yeah, so we're about at that time. Let's talk about some Starfinder 2E. So Starfinder has always been Pathfinder's little brother, little sibling game, because I don't think it's ever been as big as Pathfinder, but big enough where Paizo is invested in it, and big enough where there's a lot of people who are very interested in the Starfinder stuff. Definitely looking into it, it was interesting, and I feel like if I had looked into it back when I was playing Pathfinder First Edition for the first time, I would have been like, oh, there's some really cool stuff in this one though. And I would have been a lot more invested, but I just never got there. And after Pathfinder 2E came out, a lot of the systems in Starfinder felt a bit archaic because it was, it was like a slight, evolution of Pathfinder. So
Yeah, I honestly think I agree. Having my only main experience with Pathfinder First Edition being Wrath of the Righteous, having to deal with Pathfinder First Edition and Wrath of the Righteous, it's a lot of times where I come up against it and I'm like, there's not a lot of here that's like, there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of objectively amazing stuff and like super fun classes and archetypes. But then I look at Starfinder and I'm like, but they're cooler stuff here though, because it's in space and you got the Solarian. I think it's the one, the whole black hole and like quasar shit. Like that's just one of the coolest class concepts I've ever heard of. The nanomachine wizard, like there's so many dope classes in that, where now the fact like, oh yeah, now it's going to get ported to a game style that we enjoy more.
And
Yes, please.
I feel like can bear more mechanical load in a simpler chassis.
Yes.
Because there's, I think, a very stark difference between the complexity of Pathfinder 2nd Edition and the complexity between Pathfinder 1st Edition. Because Pathfinder 1st Edition was very complex. And to make the good builds, you really had to get into the meat of the mechanics and really figure them out. But it was complex for the sake of bonuses. It was all about getting bigger number. It's just how you got bigger number was very different. And in
there was a
2nd edition, it's no longer about bigger number. Bigger number has been brought back a lot, and instead the complexity of doing like stuff in Pathfinder 2nd edition is action compression mixed with how big of bonuses can I get while also debuffing enemy. And team play also plays a much bigger factor in 2nd edition. So that being the case, I feel like a lot of that allows for complexity, not just in how the build makes number go big, and now it's just how do I play the game skillfully enough to make the most use out of it. And seeing that moved to Starfinder, which is a much gun heavier game, kind of cool, kind of interesting.
Very cool.
And I want to see what the Starfinder team does to shake it up to make it Starfinder specific, because some stuff I already noticed was they have some general feats that are more combat orientated, which is kind of cool. Also, your background played a bigger story, or bigger part of your character in Starfinder than it did in Pathfinder. And they had a lot of races in the first Starfinder game, and so I'm wondering if that's gonna be the same moving forward, or because of versatile heritages they're gonna pull back on it. I don't know. There's a lot to dig into when it comes to Starfinder 2nd edition, but what I can say with utmost confidence is it's going to feel like a better version of Starfinder. Not a better version. It's going to feel like a more modern version of Starfinder. It's going to have a lot of the same Starfinder flavor that you've come to love and enjoy. Oh, backgrounds will be like Pathfinder 2 backgrounds, so themes won't be coming back. That's kind of sad, honestly.
Oh.
It's definitely something that we'll have to look into, and I will be looking into after Gen Con when the Starfinder 2 player stuff comes out. I'll be covering that in tandem with the Qianxia World Guide. And this will be at all the same time that everyone's finally getting their hands on the player core too. So, well, everyone else is getting their hands on Player Core too. Hopefully, I've had a couple weeks to make videos on it. I'll be already dipping into more stuff. So, it's gonna be a very, very busy time. I probably will experience my biggest growth period yet, starting in August actually. Though it'll start in July, but like all of August is just gonna be jam packed. So
I I just looked at how themes operate in Starfinder First Edition. I gotta say, yeah, I'm also a little sad that they're not going to work like this. I actually kind of like how this works.
yeah,
I like the you pick one and then they have set abilities that they gain with level ups. That's kind of cool. Vid gamer. I can be a gamer. What? Why are they not gonna bring that into Starfinder 2e?
I mean,
Fucking
I'm sure they
what's
will,
Paizo doing?
just in a different way. Yeah, I don't
God,
know. We'll see.
washed
We'll
game.
see. I will be see to see. I will be interested to see what the Starfinder community has to say about second edition. Honestly, free art type can do a lot of the work of themes. That's true, but
Yeah, I can see it.
I would like to see some adaptations of the Pathfinder 2e chassis, not just like a reprinting of it. You know what I mean? Like, play around with the chassis. Don't just give me like the same thing. We'll have
It's
to
like
see.
I look at it and I think the themes are a really fun concept that I really enjoy. So I think it's a decent fix. It's like it'll feel the same, but I also, yeah, I do agree. It's the thing we kind of been calling for constantly of take what Pathfinder does, really play around with it, mess with its systems, like use its core mechanics and stuff. You know, it should be a different game. It shouldn't just be Pathfinder but in space. I don't think they're going to be doing that, but and I don't think the removal of themes is going to be like, you know, the canary that calls for that Starfinder 2 is going to be bad. I think it's still
Yeah.
going to be really fun.
This is where the downside of the Pathfinder 2 compatibility comes into play. Well, that's the thing about compatibility, though, is a compatibility doesn't necessarily mean a one-for-one fit. It just means that they're under such similar rule sets that if there's anything you have to like adjudicate to make fit, it's really easy, you know. So it still doesn't have to be a one-to-one. But I'll leave my judgment for the playtest, and even then, it's a playtest, so I'll leave further judgment to the full release sometime next year, probably summer next year. So we will see. We will see. I'm very hopeful. And I mean, worst case scenario, we get Pathfinder, but in space.
Which I'll take.
Which
I love
is
me
cool.
space.
And it has different kinds of balancing as far as like gunplay is concerned. There's characters with multiple arms that's going to be in consideration. So I feel like with Starfinder, if you love Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you're just going to be getting more of what you love in a slightly different flavor, which is good, honestly. It's just hey, here's Pathfinder, but more and slightly different, which is kind of cool. So we'll see, but I do know a lot of people are going to be interested. I think a lot of people are going to be intrigued, and I would like to hear some of your thoughts, and yours as well, Alex, on how many, like, what do you think will be the Pathfinder bleed into Starfinder player base? How many Pathfinder players are also going to just play Starfinder now? Do you think it's going to be a lot? It's a little?
I can see a relatively decent number, like, because it's the main thing of when people are jumping over to something that's just still new, even if it is relatively similar, it's still hard to get people to convince people to make the jump, like always, because just change is a hard thing to always convince everybody. The fact that it's going to be so compatible, I think, is going to make for a much easier jump. Because then it's a lot more of, hey, you want to try Starfinder? I don't know, new games. Oh, but you play Pathfinder Second Edition. It's basically Pathfinder 2e. It's just space with different cool stuff, different lore, and we can try a sci-fi campaign without doing any homebrew. It's like, okay, maybe we try it. And then the other hurdle is a lot of people who are like, let's try Starfinder once we finish our Pathfinder campaign. So it might take a little bit to cook. I can see like a large chunk of the player base trying Starfinder 2, or at least buying the Starfinder stuff, and then getting to it on their own time. I can also see a chunk of people also just being like, sci-fi's not for me. I'll stick with fantasy.
Yeah, well, and
that's always the case.
That's kind of why, like, I'm curious about the percentages of Pathfinder bleed over. For me, I've kind of just getting a little sick of like pure high fantasy stuff. I just kind of want something a little different. Like, I remember when we played Vampire, everyone was like, you know what, this is kind of fun. It's kind of fun being in a modern day setting, you know, with phones and cars and everything like that.
It's fun just role playing your daily life, but you're just something different. It's kind of nice to just do that. It's the same thing with our Monster of the Week. It's kind of nice to role play a fucking conversation about Taco Bell.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to just do that instead of like your jokey haha fantasy Taco Bell. It's like, no, my character has opinions on the quesarito and they will be known.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's fun. It leads to different situations and it's really nice. And so it leads to like different interesting moments. It's a nice breath of fresh air. As someone who prefers sci-fi, I always like it too. I love planet hopping exploration. I love dealing with aliens. I love weird space tech. I think space can also lead to some really cool like horror stuff. There's just so many stories I feel like you can tell using sci-fi that is they're like different than what the stories you can tell in fantasy. And like you can tell similar genres, but at the end of the day too, there's a different feel.
Yeah.
I think you can tell, like if you try to tell like an eldritch horror kind of like story with fantasy and sci-fi, they're both gonna have a very different impact and feeling if it's a sci-fi or a fantasy story. And whether or not you like either one more is up to preference, but that's the fun of it. And I think it's gonna be up to flavor. I hope a lot more people do jump over. I think 15 to 20% as thrown in chat. I think it's a little low.
I think that's close. I think it'll be less than 15% actually.
I think a lot of the Pathfinder people will at least buy it. I don't think immediately jumping into a campaign is going to be likely, because I just think people who are actively playing Pathfinder are probably actively mid-campaign. A thing I do completely see, if a big thing is, well, these games are both compatible, then GMs buying Starfinder content so that, like the core book, so they then can pull Starfinder stuff for their campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. The curse of tabletop is a very long and expansive thing to do. And it's like, okay, we're in the middle of a game, but it's a 2-year game, and you know, we're still finishing up. We still got a couple chapters. Then maybe we'll try out Starfinder. But then it's like, but are we then going to play Starfinder for 2 years? Maybe not, you know? Because you always have to ask yourself, is this a time investment I'm willing to make when doing this campaign? That's kind of one of the reasons why I've been really liking the idea of the shorter campaigns. Because 10 sessions,
to do it.
10 sessions is still a long time. That's the better part of 3 months, and like in all likelihood, because callouts are always going to happen, like 3 months plus thing that's going to happen. So that's a pretty decent time commitment still, but it's far less than like a lot of people want to play their 2-year campaigns that almost always just buckle under the constraints of time before the story actually ends.
I think there's always the happy medium, because like I look at it, and as someone who is in our kind of rotating shorter campaigns, we have our Saturday game, which is I would say longer than that, but also shorter
Yeah.
than my long one. Because like for that, I'm like that's a pretty sweet spot for it. It's not too long. It's not like too short. It feels long enough that we can explore all the characters we have to their natural end states and then end the story. And then for a lot of campaigns and a lot of players, I feel like there are times where you could do the 10 session campaign and then end it at a point where it's like, damn, I didn't get to fully play out some stuff I might have wanted to.
Hmm.
And but however, the part that does open it up, which is part of our philosophy when it comes to trying out games, is the 10 session rotating like new games to try is I think really good to do. I think it's a really healthy thing for your group, and a lot of people should do it because you might discover a game that you will want to do like a year-long campaign for.
Yeah.
Which is because like you might have just been stuck kind of roiling away at the same game with the same type of stories, and then there's this one indie title that is literally perfect for your group that you won't know until you try.
Yeah. And for sure, and that's kind of like why I've kind of done a mix of both. I have, we're currently on and running a what would be a year-long Pathfinder game that just got cut up into seasons, and we did some stuff in between.
Exactly.
And so it's like kind of like having your cake and eating it too. There is kind of the, unfortunately, like the desync where you haven't played your character in like 3 months and you're like, okay, shit, how does this go? Gotta remember how to play the game again. It hasn't been too bad though. I feel like you guys got right back into it pretty quick.
We're
And
very experienced with Pathfinder, and I think we're all very experienced with both all of us as a group, and I think we're good enough role players that we can jump in pretty quick. We've
yeah.
always been pretty good at that.
So, I do like the rotating game schedule. I think it's really good. If anything, I just wish I could play more games, to be
Yeah.
honest. Uh, because I'm always interested in trying new games. And, this is kind of what the channel's about. But Starfinder, like, I know at the very least we're going to do a 10 session Starfinder game.
Oh, 100%.
We'll probably do it. It depends on the timing, because we are getting closer to the end of Riptide. I think we are a comfortable 5-ish sessions from the end, give or take, at this point, which is another month or so. And then, so that'll put us in July, and then we'll be moving into Mutants and Masterminds. So that will be like Mutants and Masterminds will probably be somewhere like August. Might be a little bit later. It depends on my schedule, to be honest, because I'm gonna be so busy. Probably late August, and we'll be playing that in for like the rest of the year. I am going to wager. And then we're gonna start next year off pretty early with Plague Watch, which is a game I've been very hyped to run, very excited for. And so it's either we're going to play a slightly longer Plague Watch, or we're going to play another game after Plague Watch for whatever our next game. Probably it might be Legend of the Five Rings. I don't know. I think Devin's the one who's picking next, and I think it's going to be Legend of the Five Rings. I'm not sure. And then after that, we'll maybe do Starfinder then, or we'll do Plague Watch and then Starfinder. I don't know. So we're gonna at least play a 10 sessioner. It'll probably be a while before we do a longer one, if we feel like we want to do a longer one, but we'll have to see. Who knows? And who knows how big the channel will be? Something crazy could happen. The channel could get bigger, and there could be a lot more capacity for games on the channel. It just, a lot of things kind of depend, but under the normal schedule, we'll probably play Starfinder either right when it's releasing or like a couple months after it releases.
Gives it time also, like if we played a little bit after, I think for us to familiarize ourselves with it, for you to familiarize yourself with it, because that'll be probably after you made some videos.
Yeah, more than
So
likely.
it'll be pretty good. Either way, both scheduling is kind of opportune because either realities, it's you learning Starfinder while actually playing it and making videos, or we start playing it as you're becoming more familiar with the game, and so it's just a smoother like experience. Though
Yeah,
even then, it's not going to be that major of a jump because what we've learned reportedly is if you're jumping in from Pathfinder, it's very smooth.
yeah. So, we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of stuff. I'd want to see what the crossover of Pathfinder 1 to Starfinder 1 was. Maybe. I don't know. I've never played Starfinder. However, they played a lot of Pathfinder. For me, it's like a better version of the D&D Spelljammer. You know what? That's honestly super fair. D&D, at least the 5e Spelljammer, very sad. And to be fair, with Paizo at the very least, Starfinder has its own team. Unlike Spelljammer, which is just like whoever D&D got working on their stuff probably just like, you guys do Starfinder or do Spelljammer now. I don't know. I really don't know what D&D. D&D has degraded into such a state that it's just hard to talk about in a serious tabletop sense anymore.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I don't even think they know what they're doing anymore.
Honestly. So Starfinder, I think there's gonna be, I think it's gonna be pretty big. I think there's gonna be a lot of interest. I think as far as like my channel is concerned, Starfinder is going to not perform as well as Pathfinder, but I think it's gonna perform slightly better than like my Lancer content has been doing. So it's gonna be a middle ground kind of content spread, which is not terrible.
I can see at least a lot of like Pathfinder players idly watching Starfinder stuff just out of like curiosity of what this actual similarity is.
Yeah, which is what I think is why the number is going to be that way. Because if I was to look at the actual Starfinder community, I'd say it's probably somewhere close to the Lancer community, if I'm being honest.
Not major, but dedicated.
Yeah. So having a little bit of bleed from the Pathfinder 2e crowd, I think will put it just like a step above. But I'll be covering it nonetheless. I think it'll be interesting, and unless it bombs super duper hard, you know, there's no really reason to do it. And, you know, honestly, when doing this channel in the first place, I'm not doing it for the money. You know, I'm not doing it for the views necessarily. If I wanted money, if I wanted views on YouTube, I'd be doing something other than tabletop. But I love tabletop.
Epic prank channel.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. Gross. Or drama channel. Or
that's the real one. Yeah, you'd have to do tabletop drama.
Or a God, what's it called when you just watch other React content? React channel.
Yeah, just React channel. React drama channel. There you go. Just do both at the same time. Twice the money. But like I at least don't see Starfinder flopping. Like I think the release will be at least decent. Because I see a lot of Pathfinder players at least buying the core book. Will they immediately jump into play? Probably not. They're probably busy playing Pathfinder.
I mean, for the people who are even playing anything consistently, which is also rare.
Yeah, the other people bought it because they collect tabletop books, and it's to fill up their bookshelf.
So, we'll see. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be a fun series to cover. Give me a bit of a shakeup with Pathfinder, and it'll let me cover some of the content gaps in the year with the between Pathfinder books. I can do some Starfinder books. So, overall, not bad. And I'll get to learn about the Starfinder stuff because honestly, about the lore, I know almost nothing.
Yeah, same.
I know in 2e, a planet is hatching into a god. Also, there's like factions of the Aslanti Empire, and some of them are very punchable fascists. That's what my note says. So, you know,
What
it's
more do you need to know?
weird. So yeah, I'll be learning about a lot of that and sharing some of that information as well. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting, and honestly, I really do think we are breaking into some good years for tabletop in general. I feel like tabletop has been giving a lot of pushes, and we've been seeing a lot of really good projects, not only like springing up and being there, but also like gaining traction. Because not only has Lancer's community been slowly growing more and more as time goes by, but man, Fabula Ultima, people must be buying their shit because they've put out 2 books and like a GM book after release.
Happy that they're making that money. The game deserves a fan base.
And with like Candela Obscura and with crap, what's the other one that Critical Role's making? Daggerheart, there you go. Daggerheart coming out probably sometime next year, early next year, I'd wager. We have the idea, a lot of people will start seeing more tabletop games. Like, it used to be, you only saw D&D. You go into a bookstore and you see the huge ass D&D section, and then you see another section with a little label that says games, where all the other ones are crammed into, and you just don't hear or see any of them. But now with a lot of conversation around D&D 2024 being like a new edition, people are either going to love or hate it. There's going to be that divide even within within the D&D community itself. Candela Obscura and Daggerheart being on people's minds because, of course, Critical Role is playing them. And honestly, I'm very curious to see how well Critical Role does view-wise with some of these other games. As far as I know, their other content has been doing pretty similar. I'm actually very curious about this. I'm going to look into this. How well has Critical Role other content been doing?
That's a good question. I haven't looked at their actual channel in like such a long time since I don't watch Critical Role anymore.
It seems like Candela Obscura stuff performs way worse. Like a tenth of
Not
what the normal
surprised.
stuff is. Though Daggerheart stuff, granted, it's all the beta stuff, but the Daggerheart stuff has been doing pretty well. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how Daggerheart does. And there are some older Candela Obscura stuff that seems to be doing better, but compared to what they're currently doing, like, I'm curious if Critical Role, if they do switch away from D&D, if it's going to be actually worse for them overall. But my main point is people are going to be aware that more tabletop exists, and I feel like that is kind of the steps needed to make tabletop become more like variety tabletop to become more of a thing. And I know there's a lot of tabletop content channels popping up all the time. Pathfinder spawned a bunch of them. Has there been any like Fabula Ultima channels coming up?
Oh, that's a great question. There's many really cool ones, and they definitely need some attention.
I mean, I definitely want to cover more Fabula Ultima stuff. I feel like it's been something that I've been kind of craving.
I like the title Fabula Ultima Final Fantasy is a tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
Well, though, even though there is the Final Fantasy tabletop RPG that came out, which is apparently just a 5e rip.
There are some channels doing some Fabula Ultima stuff. Not super consistently, but somewhat consistently.
It definitely seems like it's D&D or at least just tabletop variety channels, which is good. Glad it's getting some coverage.
There have been some that are definitely like really leaning into it. So it's definitely been getting the rounds. No consistent channels out there at the time. Oh no, maybe I'll start doing Fabula Ultima content too.
God! Oh man, this is really funny. I thought I recognized the thumbnail. One of the guys who's doing a Fabula Ultima video is the guy who has the most popular Anima Beyond Fantasy videos on YouTube.
Oh.
The guy with the skull thumbnail and like skull avatar that made all of the creation and like play guides.
Do you remember the channel name?
Aaron Der Shadle.
Oh, I have no idea. Yeah.
If you just type in Anima Beyond Fantasy, it pops up right away. There's a skull. Yeah, it's he made giant, actually very well done guides on how to make a character and how to actually like create a character for each, like, you know, like a magic class, a psychic, key stuff. They're very well done. He's the top anima guy, and he 2 months ago did a Fabula video on the subsystems, and he's like making guides for Fabula Ultima. That's a blast from the past. I remember watching those when we were first getting into it. Like, at least I was getting pulled into it.
See, and that's the thing, right? That's what I would want for my channel to be one day, is to be a channel that covers a lot of different tabletop games, you know? I want to be that channel that covers other tabletop games, but, you know, more than just a first impression. Which is kind of why I moved away from the first impression idea for the channel. Because, like, while it was interesting, for sure, and while I'll still probably do some content on it, I still haven't done a lot of the vampire stuff, which I've been meaning to do, but man, that core book was so rough.
I mean, you genuinely don't majorly have to. There's not, like, Vampire 5e is a game where it's like, there's not that much, like, I honestly think the kind of game and like how it's all constructed, if you really want to learn how to like make what kind of character and how to like make your stuff, you learn the lore of what your clan is, you learn what your discipline choices are, what your weakness and compulsion is, you're kind of set.
Yeah, everything else is if I made a video of like, okay, here's what you actually need to know for your character, and like, here's how you actually look for it. You're like, if you have a question in the book, let me answer it for you in this video. Because
yeah, make a video of like, the Vampire 5e book sucks here. Yeah, because it's really bad. It needs a reprint. It needs to get fixed. That book is rough. It's so sad because all the other books are so good. Like the V20 book is so good. It has like such a great art style too. And then they were like, what if we made shitty photographs and they look bad?
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, like, and that's the thing. That's what I think the great part about Starfinder's major release is going to be, like, where I get to look into essentially a new game, you know, even though it's going to have a lot of the same bones as Pathfinder, there's going to be different things to talk about. There's going to be different aspects to it. I know they're talking about doing Starship stuff, even though that's not coming on release. I mean, they released mech stuff eventually with Mechageddon, so I'm sure more stuff around that will probably come out eventually. And, you know, there's going to be some differences, and so it's going to be a little fun shakeup. I know a lot of people, I think, are interested in Starfinder at the very least, and it's going to be content that people are going to want to watch even passively. So for all my longtime viewers, which I know many of you are, there's gonna be some fun videos you can look at and be like, oh, that's kind of neat. Let's listen to this and see what's going on. You know, but how's this game going? I I really do want genre shifts to happen in the tabletop space. I feel like high fantasy is fine. I think high fantasy is great. I've enjoyed high fantasy a lot. But man, do we need not high fantasy all the time? Please give me a little bit of a speck, a little morsel of some other types of genres, please.
A
I know
crumb of different genres.
I know Call of Cthulhu is really big, apparently.
I hear a lot of people talk about it. It's one of the names that I hear like constantly.
It's like a big niche community. Problem is, people have tried the genre shifts before and then went back. Yeah, I know. And to be fair, like games like Fabula Ultima, I think are what we need. You know, a game that's interesting, that offers something really cool and a lot of fun. Lancer, similarly. Cock is huge in Japan. Sorry. Call of Cthulhu is huge in Japan, apparently. Weird,
It
strange.
is, yeah. I remember actually reading about that too, because it was a big thing that happened with the small controversy that hit with, funny enough, the Final Fantasy tabletop game that released recently.
Right.
There was a big write-up from some people about like people need to understand how Japanese audiences actually engage with tabletop, because it's very different from how Western audiences do. Because the big hurdle, well, Call of Cthulhu was very big, but also how some of the rules in the Final Fantasy game were very much appealing and designed for that audience in mind. Because one of the rules they had in the Final Fantasy one, kind of mirroring the game, one of the rule zeros was if your party dies and wipes in a dungeon or boss fight, have them restart.
Yeah.
Like, it was like people were like, well, where's the consequence?
Right.
No permadeath. And then they were like, that's then yeah, it was just apparently that's that there's a very large audience in Japan that plays tabletop games like MMOs and like video games, just, you know, with friends and at a table. And so that's what the Final Fantasy one is trying to emulate. I find that really interesting. And also, yeah, then that was also in the write-up of Call of Cthulhu is one of the bigger games over there. I was like, that's really fascinating, actually. I love that. It's like when we get South American viewers in here talking about like how their communities are and like their local game stores and like what games are popular. It's really cool seeing just what different areas, what their top games and like what their local communities really fuck with compared to over here where it's kind of only the Dragon game and that's kind of it.
Right. Yeah, and honestly, even in like Europe, tabletop is somewhat different because they have a very different tabletop culture in general.
Germany, it's Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Shadowrun is the top dog.
So that's honestly why I'm so hyped for Pathfinder 2nd Edition and Starfinder to come out, because they'll give players an option. And I mean, think about all the D&D players who are just like, Spelljammer's like not what I wanted. I wanted to play like actual sci-fi, and someone's just like, hey, Starfinder 2e came out. I know you hate Starfinder, I know you hate Pathfinder because all the Pathfinder players are obnoxious, but Starfinder is like a full-on game. It might get people to try. I don't know. Time to start playing Final Fantasy 14 Iron Man mode. Don't for your own sanity. There's too many raid wipe mechanics for just someone not doing the right job. You'll get to Crystal Tower and then you'll never get beyond A Realm Reborn.
I posted it in my Friday D&D thing because Jess is in there, but it was a tweet I came across randomly. It was some random fucking boss fight from Final Fantasy 14, but it was just some boss with, you know, like 10 wings or whatever, and it's just someone quoted it with, I like the part where it goes, give me praise for he has no equal, and just shoots you with space lasers for 5 minutes straight.
Yeah.
Like that, damn, what a game. And I can just imagine, sounds like a great time. You play your big RPG for 200 hours and then you have to Iron Man kill your character because it got wiped by a space laser.
That was Grand Blue, yeah, but that's super
That's
applicable
Grand
in
Blue?
Pathfinder.
Okay, I
Yeah,
don't
or in
I
Starf-
don't know the
or,
difference.
It's the same thing. The same thing can happen in Final Fantasy. If you play Final Fantasy 14, and you know, like, oh god, what's that one attack that Bahamut always does? Light Rampant, same thing.
Okay.
It's the same
I've
thing.
played
It's just
both.
a lot
Yeah.
of explodey sky lasers.
Every video I see of a raid in Final Fantasy 14 is literally just somebody dodging space lasers for 5 minutes. So I assumed.
Yeah. Well, there's a fun one. There's a fun dungeon of play math or die.
I would lose.
A lot of
I'm
people
fucked,
do.
bro.
A lot of people can't do basic math, and
It's
it
me as
is
fuck.
a very dangerous dungeon because of that. The number of players who wipe on that dungeon because it suddenly is like, did you know 1 is not a prime number? Yeah.
Why? That doesn't make sense. You can't. I don't know the rules of Prime, but that doesn't make sense to me. It's just like, man, that's so funny. The one bit I will always give Final Fantasy 14 is the creator is supremely based. I do really like him. Like every time I see him on stage, he's always giving an amazing talk. He's just, the energy he has is fantastic. It was the bit where they talked about like the latest update being delayed and he just shook his fist with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
I give you 1 week.
I give you 1. Yoshi P is the greatest.
He's really funny.
He's really
I
great.
appreciate him a lot.
He's saved so much of Final Fantasy's properties. It's crazy.
And then the other bit where what he was like at some big game show or a Game Awards thing, just playing Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah.
He's just based.
He's a gamer. He's hilarious.
I love that bit of like he's also doing it for himself. He wants to play Elden Ring.
Yeah. So yeah, it's great. Final Fantasy plays where it has like, does it really? That's crazy. Makes sense, I guess. It's a big MMO. In the dying field. You know what's crazy? MMOs are dying. It's crazy how things have changed. I used to say like, yeah, tabletop needs to be like MMOs where like a bunch of people are looking for new because it felt like the most applicable. But so many MMOs are just dying. Like the like servers are getting cut and destroyed. Like Terra Online was up for a very long time, finally shut its doors like 2 years ago or something like that. It's wild how the genre has just disappeared.
Honestly, it's like held by a couple things because like most of the MMOs that are currently active right now are held by either, there's 2 camps of it. It's that aren't like, you know, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, like those names. It's either fan run, like it's they had created their own stuff so it can continually being done because it's like abandonware at this point, or they're all being hosted by this one company where all they do is they approach MMO companies that are dying. Yeah. And then they buy the server rights, which they do like DCU Online and all that shit. It's a clever market. But yeah, it's really fascinating because you have those MMOs. It's like these people played for thousands of hours. They're not gonna switch. But yeah, it's just not a major thing where MMOs are coming out constantly because there's no. It's a bad idea because if you're gonna be like, let's make an MMO to compete with Final Fantasy 14
or World of Warcraft.
Well,
it's not necessarily a stupid idea. The problem is that it's just bad implementation every time.
There's not good ones coming out either.
Well, that's the thing. It's just bad implementation. Like they're just like, here is this idea for a game. Also, we don't have end game. Like the sheer number of MMOs that are coming out with no end game is insane. It's an MMO.
It's
It's an
supposed to be like
MMO.
really
Endgame,
playable.
yeah. Endgame has to be the biggest aspect of your game. Why is so many MMOs coming out with no endgame? Or even worse, the gacha mechanics they put in MMOs were like, you want to improve this gear? Well, you have to get this really rare material and then gamble on whether it actually improves your shit or not. It's dumb. When all you have to do is just make a good game. That's all you need to do. And then you just get a subscriber base. And then you do what Final Fantasy does, where it's just you get a really like fanatical of subscriber base who are subscribing to your game. Literally, I've not actually played Final Fantasy in like 3 years. Like since the last expansion came out, I played it all the way through. I played the story, and then I was pretty much done. I've been subscribing every like other month to save our in-game house. That's it, because their houses are a pain to get in that game.
Yeah, seems like it.
And it's a little bit better now, but still not great. But
Every time I loosely think, like, man, what if maybe I give it the old college try? What if this game is something I would genuinely like? I look at the entry price and I'm like, nah, I'm good, because it looks really expensive.
it's really not.
I mean, on Steam, I don't know. I look at it and I'm just like, hey.
Well, if it's Final Fantasy 14, you can play the first 3 expansions, which is over 200 hours of gameplay, for free.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that's where the meme comes from. Have you heard of Final Fantasy 14's new free trial that gets you all the way up through it? First, it was through Heaven's Word with over 160 hours of gameplay, and now it's through. Oh God, what's it called? Blah blah blah. The
Endwalker?
Stormblood. Play through Stormblood, which is over 200 hours of gameplay. The one problem with Final Fantasy 14 is it's extremely, almost too single player focused. Ironically, for an MMO. The story's good. I thoroughly enjoyed the story. I had a lot of good moments in it and felt very emotional. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But it was a pain in the ass to play with Suzanne, because it's just like, we're done leveling now. Go do story, because you leveled up twice. And then it's just like, all right, now we have like 2 hours of cutscenes and story missions and all that kind of stuff before you go back to the MMO part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people describe it as like, it is a Final Fantasy game that you can play online.
Yeah,
and
well,
that's gonna hook a lot of people. But
the
you know,
best part about it is, if you are someone who enjoys MMO community, it's great, because it has a really good single player story. There is some really intense, like, their end game raid mechanics are insane. Like, they're very difficult. Prague is probably some of the funnest gameplay you can really do. Prague is like playing a raid you've never played before and like progressing through it. And then it has so much like community stuff. Like, there's people who run like RP businesses, essentially, where people come in and they RP and they like get food brought to them or whatever. And there's cooking in the game, so it's actually made food that your character gets to eat. And there's dancing and all kinds of outfits, and like the community stuff goes wild. I'm terribly antisocial online though, so I never was able to get into that part of it. But the story was great, absolutely amazing.
The part that would even feasibly appeal to me is the idea of a Final Fantasy game that has the option to have friends like take part. So like the community part is like,
Yeah.
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy part, yeah, I like Final Fantasy, and I'm like, I know that it has stuff from the other games where I'm like, Kefka, he's there, there he is.
Yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia bait in the game as well. It's all really good. It's I don't think you would enjoy it overly much in the end,
Probably not.
but there is good stuff there, you know. The if you want to see an MMO that got heart and soul poured into it and should be like the benchmark that like MMOs are based off of, that's Final Fantasy 14. Unfortunately, WoW got absolutely destroyed by corporate greed and Blizzard, but that's just how it is.
It did. And like WoW was something I played for a chunk of time with my girlfriend, and like I had fun with it. Like I enjoyed it. And it's I don't know. It'd be a thing where it's like, oh well, if I can just try it for free and see, I would probably try Final Fantasy 14 for free. Because if that's just the me, I will do it. And then probably be like, all right, is this something I'd ever pay money on? We'll see. And then more than likely I would drop it after like a day or two. That's very likely.
Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is. I have put in how much time have I put into Final Fantasy at this point? Final Fantasy. I've put in 1,000 hours almost on PC, and I played it first on the PlayStation 4. So, and I think it was like 600 hours on PlayStation before I went to PC. So yeah, almost like 1.5 thousand hours on a game. So I've gotten, if anything, my money's worth out of it.
That's fair. Though, oh, man, the one Final Fantasy game that I know I'd enjoy more is Final Fantasy Stranger in Paradise. That one looks very fun from what I keep seeing.
It looks definitely super goofy.
Because it's Team Ninja.
Some of the character stuff is funny. I think some of it looks interesting, but I don't know. I would have to, I'd get it for like maybe $30.
Yeah, it's currently 40 because they charge purely $40 for it only. I just really love the bit of a protagonist who has as much contempt for the story you're in as a chunk of the player base. I really enjoy a lot of the cutscenes where Jack is just trying to skip the dialogue.
Yeah,
it's really I don't care what you're monologuing. Stop! I just want to punch you. It's just so funny. Chaos. And also the combat looks so good.
There's some interesting parts. Like I said, I would get it, maybe not for full price, but you know.
No, same. If it drops like on sale, that's a purchase.
Yeah, and Shadowbringers was honestly my favorite expansion. I like Endwalker because it tied everything up, but Endwalker was definitely not my favorite expansion. Shadowbringers was really good. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, back to Tabletop. Yeah, Endwalker is still great. I still like it. I think there's a lot of fun. But Shadowbringers, there was so much cool shit in Shadowbringers. Though Endwalker did bring me my favorite class. So, but yeah, it's as far as like Tabletop is concerned, I really think that like for the next few years, Gen Con, we're gonna start seeing cooler and cooler games coming out. I mean, heck, you just reviewed that one Tabletop game that's currently in the works now.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the people who were super disillusioned after OGL have been working and are now like in the process of getting ready to release like stuff about their games. So I feel like we're gonna start seeing a lot more games. I definitely want to cover as much as I can. The channel's been growing really well, so hopefully eventually I can support more content on the channel. I'd really love to be able to have more I can do Because right now, like, even 3 videos a week is kind of a lot mixed in with like real life stuff. And I definitely have been able to do like 7-day a week content before, but then I get burnt out. So 3 to 4 videos a week, like 3 videos a week, I feel is like perfect for me at this time. But if I ever get like an editor in the future, then I'll just double up my content. Then I'll just do what I'm still doing, but also releasing extra videos in the week, you know?
Yeah, makes it easier when you can send it off and just do that. Because that's the big thing I had to do of really address the fact that I was like getting just obviously like I was just burning out of like making videos constantly of like I just don't want to even go to record. I don't want to do this because then also just getting sick and that disrupting it, breaking the cycle constantly. And I'm like, no, I need to just lower this to 1 video a week. The harshest part that it'll probably mean is if I want to make this the most optimal, it does mean that I'd have to be a lot more selective about what I cover. Because it means like if I make 1 video a week, then it's just make each video something I'm at least optimistic will perform decent.
Right,
But
yeah.
I think that there's just a chance that it'll be fine because like I have 5 videos that are constantly boosting my shit and have been doing it for months. And so, and like they kind of just are catching up at the same rate as I add more stuff to it because it's Lancer, Pathfinder, and Warhammer videos that are doing it. And now this Trench Crusade one is added to the pile basically. And so just kind of do this on a weekly basis. Though it's harder for me because I also have a full job that I got to do. And then I had too much stuff where it was basically like I come home from work and then I have work too that doesn't pay me.
Right, yeah. No, I
So,
feel that
yeah.
for sure. Man, yeah, that
And
video
then
has
it was
been
just
doing
tough.
numbers. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's been. I think it's the fact that it's just you look up Trench Crusade stuff. I think my video just pops up around that. I'd have to go to incognito mode to see if it's not just my own search stuff.
Also, hi, Oi, man. Let's see. Let's go to incognito. Let's see. Let's see.
Trench Crusade. Scroll down. Oh yeah, okay. I'm on the first page of Google.
That's pretty
I just
good,
scrolled
too.
down. Yeah, I just scrolled down on Google, and I am on at least the first page.
Yeah, you're the 3rd video on YouTube.
That's pretty cool.
Granted, it's in the same vein of how YouTube normally does it, where they mix in. Like, they'll have, like, big hitter, small hitter, big hitter, small hitter. So, like, there's one before yours, or there's 2 before yours. There's a very small one, and then there's a big one, and then there's yours, and then there's another big one, and then a smaller one, big one, smaller one. There's not too many. And it eventually goes down to Trench Tails.
Yeah. I'll take it though.
It's
a cool
I
game.
think it's a good position.
It's a cool game, and I also hope, because it's a lot of people were asking about it. People were saying like there was a lot of people actually from our circle, general like Twitter area, that like the accounts that we probably both get on our timeline constantly.
Yeah.
People were asking like, hey, I don't play war games. It's not something I enjoy. If you ever make a tabletop game with this setting, I'm fucking in. So, because like I think it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I would certainly be so down to do some trench warfare, like against the armies of hell. That sounds pretty sick.
Yeah,
like, it's a dope setting.
I think it's great. Like I said, I feel like tabletop is getting, and like, man, Roll20 has been making big moves lately. Now we got the player in Discord coming out.
That's gonna be a big one for a lot of people.
And they've recently acquired Demiplane, which Demiplane, if you're not familiar with,
that.
like a big it's a big website that makes like character sheets and lets it easy lets you get like PDFs for certain tabletop games and all kinds of things. It's like it's just a site that helps you keep track of all your tabletop stuff in one, more or less.
I like Demiplane. That's a good site. I thought it was I thought it was shutting down, at least, or there's a site similar to Demiplane that I think was shutting down. So I am, yeah, if they picked it up, then hell yeah.
I'm not
Roll
sure,
20 do
Definix.
good stuff.
Regardless, I don't think it's a bad thing. But friend of the channel, the Rule Lords, did make mention that he was concerned about the acquisition because Roll20, if anyone has bought stuff on Roll20 knows, it is absolute pain buying stuff for Roll20 because Roll20 only sells things at full price. So if you buy the PDF like from the actual website, you have to also buy it on Roll20. And on Roll20, you don't get the PDF. You get their compendium version of it, which honestly is kind of ass if you're trying to flip through it and look at the stuff. So,
yeah.
If that's the case, and Demiplane currently allows you to, if you own the PDF through the website from the game's proprietor, they give you a huge discount for it. Who knows how that might change. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. But at the very least, it's kind of like the whole WotC D&D thing. If we do have big shitty Overlord Roll20, that means money is being made in the tabletop or VTT sphere anyway, which means that more people are getting invested in it. So that's at least a small takeaway if it goes that direction. Or Roll20 could just become better. Foundry's been great, but my god, is Foundry just super temperamental.
And then, yeah, it's the other aspect. It's the positives and the negatives of running something that's all mod backed. Because on one hand, because you have a really thriving modding community, it's really nice because you get people who actively play whatever niche thing they're doing. You're getting support for stuff that wouldn't normally get any support because it's stuff that's like, say for example, one that we were looking at and just have kind of pay attention to, the Rogue Trader stuff.
Right.
Which granted is all through the Death Watch game. That 100% wouldn't get any form of physical or like any form of official release from anything. The license is completely dead in the water. Fantasy Flight doesn't have any licenses for it. That wouldn't make any money. But there's a modding community that can create very targeted things for it and then release it. Then Foundry releases an update, breaking the mods.
Yep.
And then you have to hope for whatever game you're doing that, say for example, the modder is active and hasn't quit the community or hasn't abandoned whatever program you were using. That was really nice. And there's also then the chance, because I know some people were talking about it for other stuff when it comes to Lancer, having two versions of Foundry existing on different Foundry versions.
Yeah, good news on that front.
Tough.
They got updated finally, so
that's good. That's good to hear. But yeah, that's the issue when you run a modded thing. It's the same thing I deal with when it comes to heavily modding video games. It's just there are great mods that sometimes do not make the jump of game edition.
Yeah.
And it happens. Something when I used to mod Blade and Sorcery, which is such a great game. But like there are great mods that I have to look at because I think the game's currently in U12 or U13 or something. And I look at like U8 and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have that. But it just, yeah. So it sucks. It's the kind of thing of when you mod stuff, you have to just never update, which is, yeah. It's like That's what
Bro.
they did with with Fallout, because they released the stealth update for next gen, which broke literally every single mod. So like it just it happens.
So, on one hand, I'm happy because it seems like VTTs are growing, which means tabletop is growing. All the better, I I just hope that it doesn't self-implode before it gets to grow big enough, because that's the MMOs would not be as good if WoW didn't release in such a good state. Like, maybe not like at release, but like the first few expansions of WoW were really, really good. And it made a lot more people jump into MMOs that were never into MMOs before, It was a very big catalyst for growth. And if Blizzard had started doing the stuff that they've been doing with the last few expansions earlier, it wouldn't have grown as quickly as it has. And so I'm hoping, at the very least, Roll20, which seems to be one of the front runners when it comes to online tabletops, I hope they don't get shitty too quick. I hope they do great stuff first so that everyone can play. Because, like, so many people are like, Foundry's easy. Foundry's not easy. I'm telling you right now, it's not. If you think it's easy, that's because it's easy for you. It's definitely not easy for everyone.
It seems like a lot, and that's only me listening to you have to deal with it. And it's like it would be a thing that I don't want to learn. I could learn it, and it'd be a similar process as the times I've sat down and learned how to mod a lot of other stuff. I do that a lot for fun, and it would be an annoying process of fiddling. But yeah, it's really good once it works.
Yeah, once
it's so nice.
If you have someone who knows what they're doing, Foundry is great. And same thing for Roll20, actually, because Roll20 also, you can program a lot of stuff. Used to know a guy who was really, really good with Roll20 stuff.
He was a fucking wizard in Roll20. It was crazy. Yeah, Foundry has a learning curve.
Yeah.
And once you learn how to set everything up, Foundry is so good. It's top tier shit. I prefer Foundry, but there's just that understanding of like you have an amazing program, but you have a lot of setup to get that program working at really good capacity and efficiency. Roll20 is significantly easier to get started, but with a lot of work, you can get doing a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah.
They both have learning curves, but I think Foundry will have a significantly better payoff every single time.
Maybe. I don't know. Because
we'll see what Roll20 does at the end of the day, but like down the line.
Yeah, exactly, man. Foundry is like, I've been running Foundry. I've been trying to run Foundry. I like Foundry. I like some of the stuff it does. It does stuff that Roll20 can't even imagine.
Turning our Lancer game into a CRPG made Lancer a great game greater. I had so much more fun in a game I love. So it's just like, that is the thing I always picture of just it made a tactical, like, tabletop combat tactical-er digitally, and it was like the best version of that. And it was like, playing that Roll20 would be functional, but like the tactile experience of Foundry that it gave us made it better than Roll20 could ever.
But there's a lot of things that happen that I'm like, man, I wish we were on Roll20. Like, I used to be able to like very easily edit and then give you guys chunks of monster information for your monster compendium that you could see.
That part takes longer.
Yeah, you have to do that almost completely by hand now because Foundry doesn't have anything like that. So there's moments like that. And then there's just moments where something in Foundry breaks or it just doesn't work the way you thought it did, or it's like, okay, you got access to this new cool thing. Here's a manual to read to how to use this mod, and it's just like, uh, okay, it's great, but like, it's something where Foundry just has a higher barrier of entry, and it's also like more expensive because you have to buy Foundry, even though it's less expensive, obviously in the long run when compared to Roll20, obviously. But it's like, okay, so you have to buy this, and there's some stuff for Foundry you still actually need to buy in order to gain access to it. So, you know, I feel like Roll20 is just the better program to run at the front of everything. And that's why I want Roll20 to be better, so that more people have access to it. Because it's pretty accessible. It's a pretty honestly easy site to use. Foundry can have problems. Also, peer-to-peer connections. That's also not a very easy thing for a lot of people. Also, Foundry does require some intensiveness from some computers. Some computers can't even run it. Granted, some computers can't even run Roll20. But
yeah, dynamic lighting in Roll20 is a nightmare for some of our friends. Which it's very fun, and it's very cool to like actually explore it, but like, yeah, it's the thing of, I think every single program has its ups and downs. It's like there's its positives and its negatives, and yeah, it's just that trade-off, I guess, for like what you get out of each of it. Something like, because it's something when we are playing a game like Vampire, where I'm like, yeah, that's something we could just run in Roll20. I don't see why we would need to set up a Foundry page, because that seems like a lot of effort for something that's literally, we just need a web page to post text to. That's all we fucking need for that. That's fine. The only benefit is I think the Foundry character sheet was a little better. Like, the character sheets on Foundry that people make are significantly better, because the Roll20 character sheets are pretty dog shit most of the time. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know who designs a lot of them, but please make them better.
Yeah. Now, if Foundry gets more people, more investment, Foundry actually gets like a team to work on a lot of like the big game stuff. They kind of have some of that stuff with like Pathfinder and D&D. But if they
there's that Kingmaker module that was like official.
Yeah, we're playing it now. By the way,
it looks
struggled
awesome
with that module too, by the way, because it had to be uploaded in 2 big chunks essentially, because they had to do more stuff after release. And we tried to do the new updated stuff, which revolves around some of the city building in the game. And it took me 2 hours to figure out how to actually update. It wasn't just as simple as updating. I did essentially re-download the mod with all of our current. It was a lot of stuff anyway. It was a pain in the ass, and it's just, again, one of the problems that, like, it's because it's on Foundry. Ran a game on Foundry for my brother once, and the only thing stopping him from moving over was the $50. Yeah, like I said, there's that big barrier of entry as well, because like, even though it's silly, when you give someone like, here's Foundry, you can play most games for free, but you have to pay $50 to get the program. Or here's Roll20, where you have to buy whatever game you're playing, but you only pay, you know, it's going to be like a little bit less, and you don't need it necessarily. People are going to be like, oh, I'm going to do the Roll20 one because you don't have to buy it, you know? So.
yeah, and it's usually the GM who's going to be buying it anyways.
Yeah.
So it's just which cost do they want to eat at like the end of the day. Because yeah, it's like, I think Foundry at its current state, I'm really curious. It's the thing I'd love to like jump forward in time just 10 years and then jump back. So all I want to see is if we get a VTT that does what Foundry is currently doing, iterates on all of it, but just fixes all the issues that might be having. Because Foundry is doing the one thing we keep asking for of, can we get a VTT that's doing its damnedest to make whatever tabletop game as close to a video game as possible? Because I love turning it into a CRPG that we're all running together. Because just, we're all gamers here. We all game, and it's just kind of fun when the tokens shoot each other.
Yeah.
It makes it fun. Also, it's just like, it is nice to, like, when you have the digital die roller and you select the token to attack, and then like it does the roll to attack, does the hit, and then like you can click a button to just take the damage. Like, it just automates things in a really healthy way, in a really easy way, that for like stuff that's just kind of busy work on other programs or just pen and paper that we've all done thousands of times in other ways. So it's just like, I'd love to see how this stuff gets iterated on in the future.
Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, definitely, I agree. Foundry is by far the cheaper option in the long run, and not even that long of a run if you're playing Pathfinder at this point, because you're like, I want to play this class, but gotta buy the book. So
how many books they drop? Like, Paizo, I like love them to death. I wish I had more money for you.
Same. I still don't have the Impossible Lands book at all, not even as a PDF. And that's a really fun book. So there's a lot I'm hoping for. I really hope that VTTs in general get better. I hope Foundry gets more support. I hope Roll20 isn't shitty. Shitty with their monetary practices anyway. And
I hope so too.
I really, really hope that we are moving to an era where, tabletop game is still going to be relatively niche, but it's going to be kind of niche to the point where it's like Magic the Gathering, right? Where it's just like, not everyone plays Magic the Gathering, but everyone knows someone who plays Magic the Gathering. And tabletop's mostly gotten to that point, so I say as all of us are now playing Magic the Gathering again.
True.
I just made a deck the other day.
Oh shit! Did you make an upgraded version of the pre-con you tried?
No, I'm trying a commander version of a deck I had made like years ago.
Oh, nice.
The Mirror deck. So we'll have to see how that goes.
What commander is it at the very least?
You will not know them. I guarantee.
I just want to look them up.
Urtet.
Remnant of Memark?
Yes.
Token spam?
Yeah, it's Mers.
Fucking you and Slug, I swear to God.
But they're Mers. I love them.
They look fun, and they're better than spamming elves. But, like, token spam.
It's okay. It's not primarily
fun.
a token spam deck.
I'm curious to see it in action. But yeah, the Slug forced me, so every single deck has multiple methods of board wipe and token clearing.
You kind of have to, honestly.
Yeah, so like I just rip it all out.
No, the predominant thing with the deck is there's some Mer token spam, but it's in addition to Sunburst tokens, which is something or Sunburst characters, which
I don't know. Yeah,
they for each color of mana you use them, give them extra bonuses.
Oh.
Many of the Mers also produce mana as well, like manas of different colors. Also, it has artifact affinity in a lot of places where the card costs less neutral mana for every artifact you have. And like most of the lands are artifacts. So
yeah, I saw immediately it was an artifact creature and I knew it was gonna get fucky.
Yeah, it's
usually they do.
It's a fun one. I'm very excited to try it out. But yeah, Starfinder is out of this world. True perky. I'm very curious to see how Starfinder kind of further expands the Pathfinder space, because that's the thing, right? That's the thing that I'm really excited for. When Pathfinder 2nd edition came out, as much as a lot of the first edition grognards hated it, it made Pathfinder more exposed and more played than Pathfinder has ever been played before. The game grew bigger than it ever had been before. And I kind of hope the same thing happens for Starfinder.
I also hope so. I think that Starfinder has some fantastic ideas, and that was my big takeaway from our little one shot of Starfinder. Some fantastic ideas in a package that I don't particularly enjoy, and the fact that it's going to be ported into a package I now like is very cool, and I like a lot. I'm so excited to just start making Starfinder characters when the moment drops, because I would love it. I want to do that, and I know there's the concept that we have brewing, and it'd be so cool if we did that. Starfinder Lancer campaign would be so fun.
Yeah. So that probably won't be the first game we play, just because.
Oh, of course not. We want to fully play Starfinder, of course.
That's
That's
a
specialty game. Yeah,
but
we're there for
maybe.
Starfinder. I just think like we have a campaign where every once in a while, it's not like every combat, but we have situations where we do have mechs, and we are mech pilots who now actually have out of mech rules, and we are badasses outside of the mechs.
Right. Yeah. So, it's something that I feel like I'm imagining EOG Mech Finder stuff pitted against Starfinder 2 mechs, Lamo. Hi, James. I don't know what EOG is.
Eldritch Osiris games.
Oh, yeah. Eldritch Osiris games. James. Sorry, I'm thinking James Case. Stuff pitted against Starfinder 2 mechs. Yeah, I'm actually curious to see. Some of that stuff too, because I know Eldritch Osiris games has some really, really good third-party content for mech stuff.
And see a lot of it. I really liked what they talked about with Mech Finder specifically. It's a dope project, and the stuff we've talked about and seen for it is fantastic. So like, just when Starfinder 2 drops for it, I imagine they're also going to have really cool third-party Starfinder content, which I'm even more excited for.
Yeah. So, I definitely think that it's just going to make Pathfinder better in the end, just having Starfinder 2nd edition. And the good thing is usually when it comes to an early release, they don't release a ton of books like right away. So I'll be able to cover the Starfinder content in a pretty comfortable amount of time before the next book comes out. So I'm not being hard pressed. I mean, to be fair, Pathfinder's only been releasing this many books as it has because of OGL. Because if it wasn't for OGL, we would have not had Player Core 2, and War of Immortals probably would have been released a little earlier. I don't know, like July, maybe September, something like that. So, there would have been a much bigger gap with outside of everything.
Mm-hmm.
There will be obviously much less booked up years, which is great because then that means I can slot in Starfinder stuff more easily without stressing too much about it. The only time I'll have to stress is during the summer because they're going to be releasing a ton of books for every project probably in that time. But it'll be nice to go back to a simpler schedule again. Maybe I'll look at other games. Maybe I'll start doing some Fabula Ultima content. Honestly, it's just like my current obsession. I've been able to get my Lancerness out by making some Lancer content, but Fabula Ultima, I just haven't had an outlet, so maybe I'll just do some of that as well. We'll see. But right now, I'm taking some time, going a little slow, and just releasing a few videos a week to catch up with How of the Wild, and we're almost done with the Lancer stuff. Even we're getting really close to the end of the licenses. And then I don't know. I might do third-party content. I might do like a GMS review of like all the stuff you can get in the GMS base. Stuff you can get. I'm just not sure, but I will be making more, and I'll probably do some Lancer builds as well. So we'll have to see. I don't know, Alex, you got anything on the horizon you're looking forward to?
Not like, other than just all the major releases we're already getting, it's kind of the thing where I kind of just big a chillin', because I don't make stuff where I release things timely or as like it's a hot button issue or thing. I kind of just release things as I'm interested, because it's really just like the only thing on the immediate horizon where I'm like, that deserves my immediate attention is Elden Ring DLC.
That's true.
But
That's
like,
coming up soon.
that's on the 20th. That's really kind of all I care about. And like the Trench Crusade Kickstarter doesn't even have a release date like at all. It's just this year it'll drop, and we know nothing else about it other than just it's going to be a thing. But yeah, like I'm excited for everything that is going to be coming out for Pathfinder, especially anytime they're going to be releasing a Lost Omens book, because like I want to pick that up, make some videos on it. I think the only timely video I will make, like where I'm like, oh, I gotta rush to get a video out, is Lost Omens, Divine Mysteries. Like, all right, let's make some videos on the gods. Because like that's gonna be the one where I've been waiting. I'm going to make a good chunk of Pathfinder videos on the gods when that drops, because I want a nice like I want a contained thing about like the god lore, like the new updated and like at least the current lore on the gods, especially with all the updates and all the changes and the death.
True.
So
yeah.
That's the main bit. I think the first video I might make a video on Torag. Or not Torag, sorry, Gorham.
Yeah.
Video on Gorham first.
Yeah.
Like, man's dead. Oh boy. Who was he?
Who was he? Yeah, who was our Lord in Iron?
Because he is cool. Just like his design is sick. And so it also gives me an excuse to learn more about him as everything else goes down. So like yeah, that's honestly, every time you're like, I'm gonna be so busy, I lean back and I go, can't relate.
Yeah.
I'm
well,
coasting.
yeah, but see, the thing is busy on YouTube means pulling numbers.
Yeah, essentially.
So, like, yeah, am I gonna be busy? Yeah, am I gonna have a lot harder time spending time with my friends and family? Sure. But man, the YouTube numbers, I might get $400.
Yeah.
Rather than $300 that I got from How of the Wild.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be.
I also just want it for my own sake. I want to read it. I want to make characters.
Yeah, Exemplar. Play an Exemplar.
Oh, I'm 100%, dude. I want to play a lightning god, like demigod, so bad. Full on like Thor shit.
That would be kind of cool.
I want a Zweihander that has Thor returning so bad.
Right.
Like Zweihander that turns into a lightning bolt.
Ooh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, there's so much. I'm really excited to see the new Animus stuff. Animus definitely had some problems, but usually they always get fixed up when the class fully releases. But yeah, I'm also excited for Battlecry next year. Having some warfare stuff.
Like larger combat rules. Like the extra martial goodies that we know are going to be in there. Because, like, we know there's going to be 2 classes, but also
True.
just, you know, they're going to drop some extra fun goodies for everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, and, you know, like, Divine Mysteries is going to have so much interesting stuff, and, man, Pathfinder players, we're eating good. Plus, Player Core
Constantly.
2, literally next month. We're going to be seeing some of the classes getting some facelifts, some of the classes being made really cool. Oracle, I think, is going to be real stellar now.
I think the Oracle facelift is going to be the biggest one. It's like Oracle and Alchemist seem to be like the biggest boost.
Yeah.
Oracle feels a bit crazier from like what you've described.
Yeah, well, potentially. We'll have to see. It really depends on what feats they put in, but Champion's also getting some big shifting around. So Champion's going to be... I feel like Champion's going to be more interesting. I think I'll play mostly the same. I mean, same as kind of Alchemist. I just... I think Oracle's the one who's getting a major, like, actual gameplay change. Kind of like how Witch got a pretty big gameplay change. Ooh, exemplar with Oracle multi-class. I'm also curious how the Oracle multi-class is going to work.
Yeah. I think, like, Champion rework, like, at least just, yeah, I think if it changes how it like, kind of plays, but also not really. I think it might be a good way of looking at it, because it sounded like they were taking steps. It was removing some of the feats to give more options, because they're taking away all those, like, just targeted, like,
the oaths and
feats.
or litanies.
Yeah, and then making it so it was less fully reliant on reactions, which I'm into. I don't like playing very reactive. I like being very proactive in what I'm doing. So, and also you can still play heavily relying on reactions. There's nothing stopping you from still having that be a large focus of your character and of your build. Like, I'm certain they're not taking those tools away. But, like, it kind of sounds like it is a situation of, yeah, they're expanding the class options to give a bit more openness to the design rather than, like, ripping away the reaction tool, which is a good way of handling it. And I'm now, every single bit that's come about Champion, it's gotten me more like, okay, maybe, because I have my one champion character I want to try out, the champion of Kofusashi. The champion samurai, who is the the wandering laughing Ronin.
Yeah, so there's all kinds of, like, there's a lot of stuff to really look forward to coming out. And Starfinder's just going to be the cherry on top. Like, to be fair, I have so little idea about anything Starfinder. I know base, what it kind of, I'm not even overly familiar with how any of the base classes really work. Like, at least when I played Starfinder or Pathfinder First Edition, I got to play some of the classes, and you could also play it in, like, Wrath of the Righteous or Kingmaker, you know, both really, really good games. But Starfinder, I'm so wholly just unaware of that it's going to be a fun kind of shakeup and a difference in overall aesthetic. Plus, there's some things like armor attachments is going to be a big thing. A higher emphasis on gunplay is going to be a very interesting thing. I definitely think that I definitely think that Starfinder is going to create new ideas with the Pathfinder 2e chassis. I feel like a lot of people are going to see some of those things that are happening in Starfinder, and they're going to be like, okay, interesting. How is this going to change, you know, maybe future Pathfinder design? You know, because that's kind of like an exciting thought to me, is the Pathfinder 2e chassis, but, like, let's keep iterating and trying to evolve it. Like, how far can we take this chassis? What other dice system can we toss on this chassis to see if it works? Because I'm also kind of getting sick and tired of D20 games, to be honest. Which is funny, because I think Fabula Ultima is a D20 game. I can't remember.
Yes, it is a D20 game.
But I don't like how swingy D20 games are. I find the map doesn't always support the idea for the character you're trying to have.
Yeah, it does kind of mess with things.
Well, that's because
no. It is not a D20 game.
Okay.
No. It is it's D10s, D6. It's a upgrading dice system up to like D12s.
That's why we need more levels of success. I mean, yeah, kind of. I feel like you could just have a smaller die with levels of success. That works generally better.
I personally really, really like dice systems that physically upgrade the size of the dice.
I do too.
I really like it because it's really fun when you play it. It's such like a dumb reason, but it is really like it's really fun to look down and be like, the dice got bigger. Man, my character's so good at this, because you now see like it's gone from a D6 to a D12. It's just it looks like it's such a fun little like visual indicator of, hey, I'm pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it's also kind of fun when you're like, all right, I'm going to roll my crafting roll handful of D4s. I'm going to roll a hit handful of D12s. And you're like, yeah.
It's
boys will see this and be like, yeah.
It's such a physical like show of it. It does it really well. And I really like it.
Yeah, that's why I liked the original Deadlands.
Did Deadlands also have that?
Yeah, it was originally.
Oh, nice.
You had two dice. You had a dice for your attribute, and you had a dice for your skill. Or no, you had a dice for your attribute, and then you'd roll a number of dice equal for your skill level in it. And I felt that worked really, really well. I really enjoyed it. I'm very sad when they went to Deadlands Reloaded, because they made it into a D20 system.
Ew.
Gross. D20
Yucky.
bad.
And no, wait man, I don't really fuck with I'll be honest, I don't fuck with multi-class that much. I just don't do it. But no, the Kofusashi champion, he's a straight up just champion, no swash. Because his entire concept is he's a champion that is of the luck domain. Since it goes really hard into Idios the Liberator cause, and that gives you a method of re-rolling and upgrading saves. And then the luck domain allows you to give people re-rolls for saves. So it's just really because that's a bit of like spreading goodwill and spreading kind of joy. He is a guy who steps in to save people when he wanders, and then he literally changes luck to make sure that it happens.
I do gotta say, though, the Swashbuckler buff is gonna make Swashbucklers so much better.
Oh, 100%. I'm really excited. We were talking for a while that Swashbuckler needs something, and it sounds like they're going to do it.
The Bravado
Not exactly
trait.
our change.
The Bravado trait is gonna be huge.
Yes.
Because I felt Swashbuckler was already pretty cool.
It's a cool class.
It's fun, but definitely it needed something like Bravado. So
it's just like, it's the problem of, I think it was what we landed on was Swashbuckler is really cool. It's just kind of you're doing the same thing over and over again, and it relies a lot on specifically getting panache.
Yeah.
And then the other bit that's really annoying is specifically, I don't know. I'd have to re-get it because I don't want to like hit the wrong critiques of it. I remember we were just talking about how there are other classes that have similar panache abilities but have it better. And Swashbuckler just kind of has like the panache combos that they're doing repeatedly for like not the exact same benefit that other classes get.
Right.
And it sounds like, yeah, Bravado is going to patch that up. Which is also nice, because Swashbuckler is one of my favorite classes conceptually, because it's my exact style of play. It's just when I played it, I was like, I'm just a rogue with a skill to make fun of somebody.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. Like, there's not a lot extra here that mechanically makes me feel like that crazy.
Well, that's the thing. With Bravado,
still
you
fun.
don't need to succeed. You just will get panache. So,
Which is great.
yeah.
I think that'll free it up because it was just the action economy of always trying to have panache made it a little hard to like act out and do stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was fun, but I definitely think this will make it
super
better.
fun. I say that fully loving Swashbuckler and thinking it is one of the more fun classes in the game, but I think that on the other hand, there you can open it up and make the class better mechanically.
Yeah.
And I think it's what's going to happen here.
Yeah. For sure. I don't know. I'm excited. But that's going to be it for today. We've hit about the time, and I think we got a lot of interesting things coming out. I think we have Starfinder is going to be good. I don't think Starfinder is going to be like revolutionary. I don't think Starfinder is going to come in and like shake everything up. But I think Starfinder is just going to further expand everything we like about Pathfinder and bring more people to the crowd, which is really good to have.
I think it's going to be the same kind of deal that it kind of might be right now. It's going to stay Pathfinder's little brother, but it's going to be a pretty fun brother to invite to the function.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's going to be now upgraded. So now it's Pathfinder 2E's little brother rather than Pathfinder 1E's little brother. So
yeah. And I'll be excited to always extend the invite of, bring your brother along.
Yeah,
he's cool.
Bring Starfinder. It's pretty cool. That Solarian guy, pretty fun.
I like that guy. Bring the precog. Let me hang out with him.
No precog anymore.
What?
It got mixed into Warp Witch.
Okay. As long as it's kind of there. That's all I care about because I want to try that. It sounds fun.
But yeah, anything you want to leave us with before we head out today, Alex?
Keep an eye on my channel if you're interested in tabletop lore or just general lore for many of the stuff that we talk about over here. Warhammer 40k, Vampire the Masquerade, Lancer, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and a video I put out very recently that I kept talking about, Trench Crusade, a very cool war game that's going to have a Kickstarter soon. It's got beautiful and beautifully disgusting art that you really got to go look at. It's so nice. Go look up my channel. It's Glue Boy. It's linked in Cam's YouTube. Just go give it a peek. It's a fun video. And keep an eye out. I'm going to be making videos weekly now. So every week on Thursday, like around every morning before Table Talk, there'll be a new video. That is my new schedule.
Okay. I'm going to second it. Go watch Alex's Trench Crusade video. Though, do not do so while eating.
Oh yeah, the back half of that video is pretty nasty. First half, there's some. It's all right. I'll say it's pretty okay. It's not very gross. Later on, boy, Lord of Tumors, it's a little egregious.
Little rough. But if you really like World War aesthetic mixed in with a little bit of like Eldritch horror art, it's definitely gonna be the series for you. It's really cool. Also, if you really enjoy Christian iconography, it's plastered all over the damn thing. It's a game I saw and I'm like, damn, I want to play that so bad. It looks super duper fun.
I also love that on their Twitter, they actually post some of the sculpts that they're working on. They're all 3D printed sculpts.
Yeah, I saw some actually on
they're just as detailed. All the sculpts are just as detailed as the picture. So like you were literally getting carbon copies of the art. It is so nice. And another fun fact, I guess, for anyone who's super deep into Warhammer shit, John Blanche, one of the most popular, prolific, and oldest artists to work with Warhammer 40k, who's responsible for some of the most iconic art pieces ever. The big one that anyone will know, the big art piece for the Golden Throne with the skeletal emperor sitting in it, that is John Blanche. Also, the Black Templars on top of the hill, and the Sister of Battle with like her leg up on a skull. That's John Blanche. He's involved with Trench Crusade in the part of he's a massive fan, and he is now in contact with the creators because he thinks this game rules and he wants to have models and paint them.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And yeah, they're all like, "Oh my god, John Blanche likes our stuff."
That's awesome.
Which is the greatest compliment you can get because he is one of the coolest artists ever.
Other than that, I'm going to be covering How the Wild stuff. I still got a few more ancestries and archetypes. The archetype series will be returning, kind of. I think I'm still going to wait for Player Core 2 before I really get into the why this archetype is awesome. But with how many archetypes are in How the Wild, I feel like there won't be any big gaps between archetype videos. So that will also be coming up. And as well, maybe if I'm feeling it, maybe a little bit of Fabula Ultima stuff, because honestly, I gotta get this brainworm out of my head. It's just I gotta get it. I gotta have some kind of outlet, something, anything. I don't know. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. So with that, I guess we'll go ahead and say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.